So now we're going to switch it up. Now they gave us all the pieces of it. We're going to have to figure out the equation and put it together. To express the sum now using summation notation. We're going to use 1 as the lower limit of summation and I for the index. So, remember these are like the term numbers, okay? When we looked at them before, and I guess I should have wrote that out. I can't go back to it though. When we did it before, remember this was when we plugged in 1, this is when we plugged in 2, this is when we plugged in 3, and so forth, right? So, like on that first one, what was it? Example 14. If you look back at it, remember the equation was I squared, and so we said it was 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 3 squared, and then we went on to 5, I think. Okay? But we said this was 1, 4, 9, and we were adding them all, weren't we? Remember, this was our first term, this was our second term, this was our third term. This is what we got when we plugged in 1, 2, and 3 individually. So now we're looking for the same thing, but we're going to come up with the equation now. So my summation, so I'm going to do my little funny looking E. And it says use I as your variable. So this is for your index. So and it says to start at 1. And then we're going to have to figure out what number we're going to go to and what equation we're going to use. So what is the relationship between the 1 and the 1, the 2 and the 2, the 3 and the 3? If I plug in 1, how am I going to get 1? If I plug in 2, how would I get 2? If it's just itself, right? So my equation is just the identity, basically, function. Or you could say it's just I. And so if you need to, come over here and check. Okay, if it's I, then my first one is 1, plus my second one then would be 2, plus my third one would be 3, and you're right. That's how we started out, wasn't it?
Oh, that's the part where you plug it in.
So, now what number am I going to plug in then to get 40?
40.
I'd have to plug in 40 to get 40. And so that's where I'm going to stop at. Ma'am?
That's your biggest one.
That's my biggest one.
That's it?
All right, so look at number 18. So we know it's going to be our summation. It's going to start with I equals 1. So I know I'm going to get this answer when I plug in 1. I'm going to get this answer when I plug in 2. I'm going to get that answer when I plug in 3. But notice, what do they all have in common?
They all increase.
They're all increasing. They're the exponents, but they all have a 4, right? So my equation over here is going to have a 4 in it because they all have the 4. Now, what's changing there? The exponent.
So for I.
Good. And you notice the exponent is the term number, isn't it? So we're just going to say it's 4 raised to the I. And so what number would give me 4 to the 15th? What term is that?
15.
15. So that's my largest we're going to go to.
Wow, we're smart.
I know. Been telling you that all year.
Yeah.
All right, so look at number 19. So my summation notation where my index is equal to 1. Now, I know my first term is going to be the 1/3. My second term is the 2/4. My third term is the 3/5. So I have a fraction. And nothing's staying constant on any of them, right? Like if there was a 1 on the top of all the fractions, then I would know there would be a 1 on top of my equation. So let's work on the pieces of the fraction. Look at the numerator then. What do you notice about the numerator? How is that related to the term number?
That's the 3 plug in, right?
That is the number we're plugging in, right? So that's just going to be I over.
I over I.
Well,
No, because then you plug in 1, 2.
but look at the last one. They kind of give you a clue on it.
Oh, plus 2.
Plus 2. So let's check that. Let's check. If I add 2 to this, I get 3. And if I add 2 to this, I get... And if I add 2 to that, I get the 5, right? So it is I plus 2 on bottom. And then, knowing that it's I plus 2 on bottom, how is that going to give me that last term?
So it would be
That would have to be... And look at the top even, right?
8.
So we know it's going to be 16.
So